There's so much bullshit out there. Let me cut through the noise and tell you straight away what the best side hustle is and how you can take it to 5 to 10K a month and even beyond this with less than 2 hours time investment per day. In my opinion, the best side hustle is building an SBA, so a system-based agency, but on a really small scale. We will dive into how this works and how you can start your own SBA step by step in a few seconds, but let me first of all tell you who I am. My name is Jonas. I've been running my SBA for 3.5 years now, and I've helped more than 160 people start, build, and scale their system-based agencies. Some of them made it their main business and scaled it past 15K a month. Others just kept it a nice and high-paying side hustle. And everything is possible. But let's first of all talk about the requirements of a side hustle. You must be able to start it without capital. It must be fast to launch. It must work with only less than 2 hours available per day. There shouldn't be much work after getting a client. It can easily make you 5 to 10K a month, and it needs to be actually scalable and create real value. And most people now think about the traditional agency model, so selling services to different niches and charging retainers for it. And agencies also used to be the perfect side hustle and model, but that's a long time ago. The market and whole business model became so saturated, and now it's nearly impossible for beginners to sign their first client. Because in this space, you are the product. They buy you as the expert to run ads or automate stuff for them. The problem is that this makes you compete on price and experience only. And why the hell should they choose you when you have 0 case studies and not the lowest price? I've talked to more than 100 beginner agency owners, and before I worked with them and made them profitable, none of them were able to sign a single paid client. But it even gets worse, because even if you manage to sign a client, it's still the exact opposite of the perfect side hustle. It's not fast to launch because you need to become an expert at the skill, which takes months or even years of learning. It's not possible to do outreach, service delivery, and becoming better at the service in only 2 hours a day. And after you got a client, the real work starts because you are the product. It's not that easy scalable because more clients also means more work. And now you probably wonder where I'm going to take this, what the SBA model is, which I mentioned before. As an SBA, you still build and run an agency, but a system-based agency. It's just a different approach. You can still be a marketing, AI, automation, or web design agency and follow the SBA approach. As an SBA, you basically solve a high impact chain of problems for a certain niche with a repeatable system and charge fair prices for it. It's still an agency model, but completely different from what you saw before. And it's proven, right? I've worked with more than 160 agencies, helped them build SBAs, and they got pretty fast results like this. So it allows you to charge higher prices, create more value, work much less, and sign clients effortlessly, even as a beginner. Because here you don't compete on price and experience because you are not a product. You have a system which you sell. But let me walk you through every single step now, and in a second, everything will make sense. So step number 1 is to pick a niche. Here we want to focus on a high-ticket niche so we can create more impact with less effort. When running an SBA, the niche is not that important. Just make sure it has leverage. Let's take MedSpas for this example. Step number 2 is to identify the exact chain of problems they face. So instead of offering random services, we want to identify the main and follow-up problems they actually face. In the med spa niche, that could be, first of all, that they need more leads. Then they need to qualify the leads. They need to book the appointments. They need to make sure people show up to the appointment. They need to make sure people book the follow-up appointment. And lastly, they need to make sure that they leave a positive review. So we want to identify the exact problems they face in a row, which appear for all companies in the space. So you see we have one main problem, which is in this case getting more leads, and then we have 5 follow-up problems. It should be worth between 15 and 20K per month for those companies. We also want to go in depth, but not in wide with the chain. So one main problem and a couple of follow-up problems, which appear from the last problem. Step number 3 is then identify the solutions. Now that we have the chain of problems, we can now identify how all problems can be solved logically. So we just write it down like this. On the left side, we write down the core problem and the follow-up problems. On the right side, we write down how each of these problems can be solved separately. In this case, more leads can be solved with Facebook ads. Qualifying the leads can be solved with an AI bot. Booking the appointments as well. Making sure that people show up can be solved with email reminders. Booking the next appointment can be solved with a follow-up email sequence. And collecting the review can be solved with the review request automation. So we just write down one solution for each problem, so we have a chain of solutions. Step number 4 is then to set up the system. You see where we're going here. We want to build a repeatable system including services and software and sell it on a repeatable base instead of learning and providing random services, which become super hard nowadays. So now it's all about choosing the right vehicles and software. I would make sure to include as much software and as few services as possible to make it super repeatable. Like this, for example. So the vehicle for Facebook ads are the Facebook ads. For the AI bot, we can either use GoHighLevel, n8n, or any other automation software. For the second AI bot as well. For the mail reminders, we could also use Make. For the follow-up emails as well. For the review request, we could also use Zapier and so on. You see, you have multiple options per solution, but just make sure to figure out what makes most sense. If you can set up everything in one software, in this case, for example, in GoHighLevel, it makes a lot of sense to just choose one software because it's much more streamlined. Otherwise, you can just combine multiple softwares and multiple services. So you basically have one system which solves all of the problems in a row, no matter where they are set up. So as I said, you can either set up everything in one software or combine multiple ones, whatever makes more sense for the chain of problems you identified. Then set up the software and test it. It's really important to use the free trials these softwares offer and cancel them after you tested the system and then resubscribe after you got a client, because it does not make sense to pay for software without having a client. So at this stage, you now have the full system built and tested. So you can already start reaching out to clients. So instead of learning and becoming an expert at a certain service, which takes months and only leads to having a hard time getting clients, you now have a system built which solves the exact chain of problems these companies face, and you can already get your first client. So step number 5 is to make the offer. Now you're already in a good spot for getting clients, because you solve a unique chain of problems using a repeatable system, but we still need to package it in a way so it looks like your own product. The first thing we need to do is to give it a name. In this case, we could call it the Metspa engine. Then we need to make a super specific VPH, so a value proposition headline out of it. For example, we help Metspa companies get an extra 7 high-paying appointments per month while increasing the lifetime value of every customer by 2.3x using our Metspa engine. We want to be super specific about the results, add multiple numbers, and connect them to your system name so they believe these results are only possible with the Metspa engine. And since you are the only one offering it, they have to buy from you. You are the only viable option now. Lastly, we need to break it down in 3 simple steps so you can explain how it works without talking too much about the services and looking like a service provider. It could go like this. First of all, our engine provides you with a high quality source of leads. Second of all, it qualifies, books all people into your calendar and makes sure they show up on time. Lastly, the engine collects a 5-star review and immediately books the next appointment. Now we have the full offer and it amplifies the whole point even more. Now we create more value because we solve a long chain of high impact problems. We solve them in a repeatable way, which makes the service delivery super easy and scalable. We can charge higher prices because we create more value, and we can get clients much more easily because we are not competing on anything anymore, even if you're just starting out. Step number 6 is the last step, and it's about the pricing structure. Here we want to make sure to charge what's worth, a high retainer, but also sign as many clients as possible. My favorite way is the following. We have 3 options, but only present them if they keep saying no. Option number 1, the only option you show them when you pitch them, is a retainer. In this case, for example, 1.5k a month, but it can go up to 8 to 10k a month. The second option you only present to them if they say no is a smaller retainer with a higher performance fee. For example, only 700 per month, but then 100 per appointment on top. So this offer is much more attractive and most people will say yes. The last option could be no retainer or a smaller retainer, and then a super high performance fee, for example, 0 per month, and then a super high performance fee. Our goal is to close as many people as possible on the first option, and only if they say no, we then show them the second option, which most will take because it's much more attractive. And only in the worst case, we can show them the last option, which is a no-brainer, and nearly everybody will take it. And that's it. That's all the initial setup you need to do once in order to start with the outreach. And all the 6 steps I talked you through shouldn't take longer than 7 to 14 days. And after that, everything is set up and you can fully focus on getting clients. There are too many ways of getting clients, but when following the SBA approach, you don't even need to do mass outreach or cold calls. You can simply focus on low effort strategies like the LinkedIn Loom strategy, where 150 connections a week can get you up to 2 to 3 calls booked per week, which result hopefully in your first client within the first 4 weeks of doing it. Like Daniel, who set up his agency in 9 days and even signed his first client in 23 days. And if we now compare the SBA model with the requirements of the perfect side hustle, you see it's super aligned. You don't need any startup capital. you can launch your agency in 7 to 14 days completely from scratch. The whole agency can be built and clients signed with less than 2 hours per day every single week. It can easily make you 5 to 10K a month because you sell high retainer packages, and it's actually scalable if you want to take it to the next level while creating real value to the market. So you can either just stop here and aim to work with 2 to 3 clients paying you somewhere between 1.5 and 3K a month, or you can actually make a business out of that and scale it past 30 or 50K a month. Just like Maximilian, who started out while being in college and now he signed his first 1.2K a month retainer client. Or Oliver, who signed a 6K deal. So the only thing you need in order to properly start your SBA and side hustle is the right guidance on how to set up the agency from scratch, launch your system, and get clients. In this video, I just roughly walked you through the main steps, but there's much more to it and many beginner problems you can run into if you try it on your own. Probably you will spend months figuring out and trying to build the perfect system. But after working with 160 beginner agencies and helping them build their SBAs, I would say I cracked the code on how everybody can do it and build the most streamlined program and launchpad out of it. It's called the SBA Playbook, and inside I personally help you to build your SBA from scratch and also sign your first retainer client in the first 45 days after starting out. Inside, you get access to multiple in-depth programs. We start with the SBA Model 1, which is a streamlined step-by-step launchpad on all of the steps I covered above. So here we start with picking the niche, figuring out the main problem, the follow-up problems. Then we help you set up the system, we test it, we validate it, we make the offer out of that, we implement the pricing structure, the guarantee, and then we start the outreach. It also includes all the templates, AI prompts, and resources you need to go through each step and set up your agency and system in the next 7 to 14 days. While going through it, you follow a roadmap, which all other members followed as well, which makes sure you have clarity on your next steps. After you went through the modules, you will have the business overview filled out. It looks like this. And here we basically just fill out all the things we talked about today. So the niche, the chain of problems, the vehicle, the solution, the system name, the offer, the pricing, the outreach strategy, and everything. And then you're basically ready to start the outreach. The next program you have access to inside is called the Acquisition Temple, which is the most in-depth program on acquisition I've ever seen. Inside, you get access to more than 28 modules, including proven scripts, templates, funnels, and even plug-and-play AI systems to sign your first SBA client. These are the same systems that Max used to sign his first 1.5K upfront and 1K retainer client just after starting out. After that, you have access to the Sales Masterclass, where you can learn how to convert appointments into paying clients. Here I give you my exact scripts, frameworks, demo decks, presentations, and everything you need to close clients on calls, even if you're a complete beginner, while avoiding all the objections. And I forgot to tell you, but you don't have to do this on your own. While going through the modules, we have implementation calls where I personally help you to set up each step from niche to chain of problems to building the system, making the offer, and starting the outreach. I directly come into your business and help you with each step. After that, we have weekly calls to check in and look at your outreach data, and 2 additional calls per week, including strategy sessions and personalized mindset calls. And all that while being surrounded by 165 beginner agencies who are on the same path as you are. And the investment of it is less than what one client pays you if they only stay for 1 month. So how long do you feel like it will take you to double your investment? 3x it or even 10x it? So here are a couple of more case studies of members. For example, Kunu, who signed the 8,100 euros deal, that's roughly $9,500. Or Michael, who signed his first 1.2K month retainer client. And if you want to become the next case study and finally use the side hustle, which actually works, then click the link in the description and book a free one-on-one call with me, where I'm able to give you a ton of free value and finally also see if you qualify for the SBA Playbook and one-on-one mentorship. See you on the call.